are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again. Today, we have another show lined up for y'all. Today, we have a special guest today. His name is Vassar, and we're going to focus on his life story, his career in sales, marketing, self-improvement, coaching authors, and entrepreneurs. But the topic of today is going to be quite interesting. You're going to scratch your head a little bit, but it's going to make sense at the end. Why eating out of a trash can made my life better. And we're talking about AJ's life. So he obviously has an awesome story. So first and foremost, let's learn about AJ. How you doing, man?
Hey, man, I'm doing phenomenal. I appreciate you having me.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you taking time to be here with us today. So, man, I know that title kind of got people scratching their head like, okay, what we talking about? Well, you have the story. So kind of share with the audience a little bit about you.
So, man, I've been, I guess, I wouldn't even call myself an entrepreneur at first. I just needed to make money because I'm the oldest of 8 kids from a primarily single parent household. And once I realized that my mother's responsibility was more to take care of my younger siblings, it was like, yo, I got to take care of me. And it didn't mean she didn't love me. It's just we didn't have enough resources. You know what I'm saying? Once you're able to start getting it, you got to go get it yourself. So that's kind of where the journey started. And so I've always been trying to find ways to make money, cutting hair, all that good stuff. And, by learning that, you learn to start taking risks. And one of the risks I took was to start a company with my cousin. And I mean, I made the first sale in the company the day I had to eat out the trash can, which is ironic. But when I made the sale, I wasn't aware of invoices. And, so I'm thinking, I made the sale. She finna pay me. And she was like, no, send me an invoice on the 15th. And I'm like, wow. So I didn't have anything, man. And, at the time I was too prideful to tell my cousin. So when I made the sale, he came over to my apartment and he brought some Chick-fil-A because he wanted to celebrate. And I was happy because I'm like, yo, I ain't ate, in a minute.
Right.
And while he was excited, you know what I'm saying? We was talking about the future and he took a bite out of his sandwich and dropped it on the floor. And unfortunately, because I was, I ain't really cleaned up back then. So it wasn't no 5-second rule. My carpet probably hadn't been vacuumed in a minute. So later on that night, man, because this was like early in the morning when that happened. So, I didn't eat the rest of the day. And man, I couldn't go to sleep because I was hungry. And I ended up having to go in the trash can and get a sandwich, man. And I ate it. And I prayed over it. I ate it. And I was like, the reason that it changed my life was because at that moment I had a couple options. I can go back to cutting hair, which I knew I can make about $1,000 a week, but I would have to return to Missouri instead of being in Atlanta. I could call my brother, who could send me some illegal substances to where I was to sell, or I could go through the pain of embarrassment of having to eat out of a trash can and learn from it. And I chose the pain of eating out of the trash can and learning from it. So that's how my life got me.
When you were doing that, was this a one-time deal or was this something that you had to do to survive? Like, paint that picture for the audience. Was this something that you just hit your lowest low, you had to do it one time, you said, nah, we're going to change this around, or was this a season of you having to do this?
No, actually, that was a one-time deal, man. And I thought, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I got through the night. I made a couple calls. Things was looking up and got better. And 2 years after that, like almost literally 2 years after that, on April 20th, 2014, me and my cousin decided to part ways in business. Like that sometimes happens. And I was forced to live in my car for 3 months. Living out of my car. So that was the season. So the eating out of the trash can was a one-time thing. And then living in my car on and off for 3 months was a 3-month, a little over 3 months ordeal. But man, I learned so much stuff that I wouldn't give it up for the world, because it was from living in my car that, 2 years later, I gave 2 cars away for Christmas. No,
Man,
so
2 years. You weren't playing. You
yeah.
you were really on it. So tell the audience about your business and what you do with your business, who you serve, and how that allowed you to have this platform you have now.
Well, really, man, my business is about helping entrepreneurs like really get over the persuasion aspect in business. I go into like depth of when I work with people, but honestly, for your audience, man, the biggest thing I would want them to know is like wherever you are in life is not your fault. It's really based off of your programming. And we have all been programmed. Most of us just don't realize it. So a lot of times when I'm talking to people, I always do little jingles and I'll be like a good neighbor. And, everybody will say State Farm is there, RESBCT. And, everybody says, find out what it means to me. And I'm like, yo, how do you know that? Whoever taught you that? You know what I'm saying? And we don't realize that like we've been programmed from birth. Right. And most of like when I do jingles and stuff, they think it's funny. But then when I say things like, it takes money to make, and everybody can say money and money doesn't grow on, and everybody says trees, or money is the root of all, everybody says evil, or all rich people are going to, and everybody says hell. I'm like, yo, that's programming. And it wasn't until I changed my programming that I changed my life. So, like regardless on if I work with you, my thing with people is always, check and change your programming. Because if you do that, your life has no option but to change. Because your programming is literally what guides your life. So people always ask me, man, how did you make the shift that fast? It was like, well, because I shifted my programming that fast. And because of that, I was able to give 2 cars away. And over the next, actually from 2016 to 2018, I gave 5 cars away. You know what I'm saying? And moved out of the US. So like now I live in South America. I'm chilling. I travel the world. I do what I want to do. I live life on my own terms. And it was because I changed my program.
I like what you just said. Your programming, you say guides your life or guards your life?
It guides your life.
Yeah, touch on that because I never really, thought of it that way because, yeah, I mean, we always hear about, your faith, whatever you believe in, that's your anchor, whatever. But I think that's a good point right there. Whatever you're programming and watching, looking, studying, you're limited to whatever you're putting inside you as far as, that goes.
100%, man. We don't. So it's something I started studying a while ago, and I used to always look at how much money would go into like research and development for these companies, and I was like, yo, what are they researching and developing? And they're researching ways to program us, and so I'm like, yo, if it's that important to them, it needs to be that important to me, and it needs to be that important to me to tell people because they realize wherever you are in life is because that's where your programming stopped, right? However high you ascended shows you where your programming stopped. If you want more, program yourself to get more. If you want to do more in life, program yourself to be able to have the capacity to do more in life. And if you do that, man, life changes. Like I'm telling you, man, everything changes when you change your program. And it's that simple, right? Although it's not the easiest thing to do because you have so many things that are vying for your attention. You have what I like to call a lot of distraction devils, right?
Right.
But if you get past the distraction devils, man, you can change your life. You can change your programming, and you will automatically start looking at life differently. Because I don't know if your audience is familiar with a term called the reticular activating system, but ultimately you learn how to shift your reticular activating system. And what that is, it's the part of you inside that knows to look for things. So I'll give you a great example. If you ever go buy a new car and then you see that car everywhere, it's like you have just tapped into your reticular activating system and said, this is important to us, look for it. So when you change your programming, you start to say, this type of success is important to us, look for it. And then you just see, man, you see opportunities everywhere, bro. You're like, yo, I never knew this was here. And it's like it's been here the whole time. You just never told your mind it was important and to go look for it.
No, that makes sense. It's funny because it's like the person who thinks they can or think they can't, Henry Ford. You're right either way.
You're, yeah.
And there's a quote that I picked up in high school and I kept in my wallet until I graduated from college and from University of Toledo, and it was by Blaise Pascal. And I share this quote with everybody I meet, because it's a powerful quote, but it's similar to what we're talking about. He wasn't a religious person, but he said in faith, there's enough light for those who want to believe, but there's also enough shadows to blind those who don't.
Wow.
So it's the same thing as Henry Ford. You think you can, think you can't.
Yeah.
You're right. It's up to you to think one or the other. And I think that's good. And for an exercise for the audience, just put it this way. You heard the famous saying, like, if you make, I'll remix a little bit, but if you make up your bed in the morning, that's your first accomplishment for the day. So make up your bed and the importance of that. Well, imagine you just don't make your bed up for 2 months. How dysfunctional would that be for you?
Yeah.
Versus if you committed to make your bed every single day for 2 months. It's going to be two different kinds of people there. You got one side that is committed to do that small little detail, but it sets the tone for the day. But then you have the other extreme. If you don't do that for 2 months, it might bleed into other things as well, as far as what you're not committed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree, man. It's in life, I believe a lot of it is about the little things. Programming yourself actually isn't a big thing. It's actually a little thing. It's just that it's not something that you can do all at one time. It takes little baby steps of telling yourself things over and over again, right? Of getting yourself to see yourself differently when you look in the mirror, right? And if you can start doing that, man, I'm telling you, I wish if it's one thing that I could like really emphasize to your audience is once you change their programming, your life will automatically start shifting towards the programming you now have.
And what did it look like for you? Like, what were some of the things AJ had to do to see him where he is today versus where he was before? What were you doing along the way in the humble beginnings, building yourself to be the best version of yourself?
So, first thing I had to do, man, I had to limit my association with my mother. It's the first thing I had to do because most of my programming came from my mother. And I noticed that when I talked to my mother, and my mother's my ace, like I bought my mother her last 2 cars, right? So I take care of my mom. So I don't want nobody to think that's the thing. Like, but I also recognize that my programming came from my mother. So I had to limit my association because I'm gonna keep hearing the same things from her, which are why I'm at where I am, and it's not gonna help me get to where I want to. So that was the first thing. Then I learned this from Dr. Miles Monroe. He said that we fought for reading, writing, and arithmetic, but they only gave it to us on top of low self-esteem, low self-worth, and low self-concept. So I started working on that. And one of the ways I did that, and I have certain people that disagree with this, and I'm cool with that, but I started realizing that I'm successful at everything I do. There's not one thing that I do that I'm not successful at. And that goes from, and literally, I have what I call success checks. So throughout the day, I'll ask myself, what am I doing right now? Man, I could be picking in my nose and I'll be like, yo, I'm successfully picking in my nose. I could be procrastinating and I'm successfully procrastinating, right? And I had to change that because as long as I'm always striving for success, it's like a horizon. I'm never going to get it. But if I realize I'm already successful, now I just have to change what I'm doing.
That makes sense.
Like I'm already successful. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't have to strive for success. I am successful. Anything I do is successful. So now I have to ask myself, is this what I want to be doing? And if that's not what I want to be doing, then I just change what I'm doing. But I don't, you know what I'm saying? I stop beating myself up and, oh man, you always procrastinating or you don't never do stuff right. Nah, man, I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing and I'm successful at it. Now the question is this what I want to continue to be successful at?
Yeah, because Woody Allen once said 80% of success in life is just showing up. So you can ask yourself, what are you showing up at today? Well, if you're showing up to laying the bed, well, there you go. You're successful at sleeping a lot, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a good point, because the starting point of change is almost like, all right, I'm into like metaphors and stuff, but it's like, think of it like your favorite sports team. You always get that gut feeling when they catch on, but it's just those small little plays that lead to the big plays. You know, it's those small little actions that shifts the momentum of the game. That's what it's like in life. You know, until you hit clock zero and you take your last breath, you're still in the game. You can always change the momentum for the better or for the worse.
And once we know that, man, then I feel like the game becomes fun, right? And we have to realize, man, this is a game we can't lose, because at the end of the game, everybody has to put all of their stuff back in the box anyway. Nobody takes it with them.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? So why not just set the game up to win? Because we all gonna have to put it back in the box at the end of the day anyway.
Yep, it's gonna be buried under dirt.
Yeah, exactly. So, man, let's just enjoy it. Let's do what we do. You know, like I think us striving for success is probably one of the worst things we could have ever. Like, I think that's part of the programming that the system manipulated us to go after success instead of realizing that we're already successful.
Yeah, it's almost like you had to use the microwave for 2 years just to heat up some pizza when you just had to put 30 seconds.
Bruh, literally.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Touch on that a little bit for the audience. Why is it important to have, it sounds like for you, you had to really get clear on your goals and be decisive versus, how do I feel like today? Oh, maybe it will take me 20 years to do this. How do you approach being decisive and making your moves as an entrepreneur and believing in yourself?
So one thing is, I judge myself by what I'm doing, not by what I plan to do. Right? Because I think, and the reason why I go back to the concept of being successful at anything that you do, because even if you're overweight, right? And it started a lot of this started for me because I was overweight, and I was like, yo, I want to see if I can lose weight. And what I realized was, I am very successful at losing weight. I'm just very successful at putting that weight back on too.
Yeah, eating those cookies, man.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? You eat those cookies for those years. Yeah, it's gonna end up there.
So I don't have it's not that I wasn't successful at losing weight. I was just very successful at gaining the weight back. So then it just becomes, okay, now I just want to be successful at losing it. And I want to be successful at keeping it off. Well, if I go to the gym, I'm being successful at losing it. If I limit my portions, I'm being successful at losing it. And then just keep doing that, right? And it honestly changes your mentality, because now, you're like, within your listeners, man, I bet if we did a poll, I bet over 95% of them are still trying to be successful. Right? They're working towards success. But what would happen if they just stopped and realized that they already were?
Yeah.
Like, if they really grasped that, you would realize how much life becomes easier.
It's almost like, hate to cut you off, but it's almost like someone learning how to manage, a car, maintenance or whatever. Well, if you just read the manual, or you read from someone who knows what they're doing versus just keep guessing at it until you hear something that sounds or looks right, well then, yeah, you can be the most frustrated person in the world, because some of our answers, I like how someone put it in my last interview, if you don't know the resource, then it's almost like not having a resource.
Yeah. No, that's, bruh. Man, it's so funny you said that. I just read a book that was talking about resources and resourcefulness. And it talked about how until we learned how to use oil was actually not a resource to us. It was actually something that got in the way because it messed up our fields and it messed up like different land. And because people didn't know how to use it, they looked at oil as a bad thing, not realizing that one day it will make the Saudis the most richest people in the world.
Man.
Just knowing how to use something makes it a resource. It doesn't matter if people deem it a resource or not. If you ever learn how to use anything to your advantage, it now becomes a resource. And that's called resourcefulness.
That is a good point for people listening to this right now. Talk to someone in general form. How can you, based on your own experience, how did AJ identify resources so that he can leverage it to propel him to where he desired to be in life? Because, you know what I'm saying, it's one thing to be like, man, who don't want to be broke? No one wants to be broke. No one gets up in the morning and say, man, I wish I was broke, you know? Mm-hmm. But there's a difference between someone who's doing something like you're saying versus someone who's just thinking that positive thought.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I actually got this from the movie Enemy of the State with Will Smith. And it's Will Smith and Gene Hackman. And Gene Hackman said something on that has stuck with me forever, and I always use it. He said, do you know how to take advantage of people that's bigger than you? He said, you take all of their strengths and you use them as weaknesses. So because they're big, that means they move slow. So if they move slow, you just move faster. Because they had and so that's what I started doing. Like, even when I started coaching people, it was like, okay, people can work with trying to think of a coach most people would know, Eric Thomas. We'll use Eric Thomas, right? You could work with Eric. Why would you want to work with AJ Vassar over Eric Thomas? So what I would do, I shoot him my cell phone number. And I'll be like, ask Eric Thomas to shoot you his cell phone number. You know what I'm saying? Like, I took whatever I knew the big boys couldn't do, and then I would use that to my advantage. So that's how I started leveraging things. That's how I started looking at my situation. If I'm broke, that means more than likely I got time. So then I'm going to give you more time. And then once I started getting money, now I don't have time. So now I'm going to use money, right? So whatever you have, learn how to use it. Yeah. Whatever you have. One of the reasons why I started giving cars away was because when I was in my car, I was going through some low times, and I realized that I still have a car. You know what I'm saying? Like, I became thankful that I had a car.
Yeah, you had something. Yeah.
I got something, and everybody has something. Yeah. Everybody that's breathing has something.
If you have breathing, you have oxygen.
Bruh,
There's a lot of people who wish they had oxygen like you.
Bruh, we just went through COVID. You don't know how many people in them hospitals wish they had oxygen?
Exactly. Man, yeah, you dropping some gems on this episode. Once again, talking about our guest today, AJ Vassar. You can go to his website. His website is internationalspeakershowcase.com. And man, real quick, because I think, man, I'm going to listen to this thing. This is like a devotional episode I can listen to. Like, it's timeless. But when someone is, I heard this from, I think, TD Jakes or somebody in one of his messages, and he said the importance of sharpening your axe, because it doesn't matter how hard you swing the axe to cut the tree down.
Yeah.
It's about how sharp that axe is.
100%, man.
And how many of us are doing that? We were wasting our life, our years, swinging at life with all we have, when all we really got to do is just sharpen the axe and use, like you said, our resources.
Yep, it's sharpening. And you sharpen it by taking time away from all the distractions and realizing how can what you have help you get to the next point. And it's like, cool, you don't. And I think that's the problem most people have when they're trying to get from A to Z. They're like, yo, you forget that you still got B. So don't worry about Z. Like, let's just get to B. You know, and that's why I really don't set goals, man. I have mile markers because I'm like, yo, when I get here, I'm not stopping. But I'm glad I'm here, and I'm gonna celebrate for a second. But I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going.
So would you say that you take more time to reflect on what you've done and then make those adjustments rather than make a list of what you want to do, 20 years from now? Like, how we set those type of goals? Are you more of a person that just goes after and reflect to see where you measure up?
Man, I'm always looking backwards to see how far I came. Right? Because first of all, there will always be people in front of me. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, we run into the mindset of judging ourselves against people ahead. One of the things that I realized a long time ago, man, is that 10 is the highest number you can ever go to. Because once you cross over 10, you just go to the bottom of the next level. And the problem is that we don't realize that as human beings. So we're always trying to get to these levels, not realizing once you get to the highest level, you just go to the bottom of the next level, right? Think about it. When you was a senior in high school, right, you was on top of the world. You was big man on campus. Well, after you finish that, where do you go? You go to a freshman in college.
Yeah, they didn't care about that.
Next level. You on the next level, but you back at the bottom rung.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing in business. Like everybody like, oh man, if I could just make $1 million. Bro, if you make $1 million, you're just going to be at the bottom of 10.
Yeah.
So cool. Now you make 11 million. Now you're at the bottom of 20. And this, believe me, you go always find people that's on top of you where you feel like, man, I'm at the bottom again. I'm starting over. Like, boy, I thought 11 million was something until I ran into the cat that's got 50.
That's an interesting point because some of the richest people, well, I don't know if I want to say that, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think some of the richest people are the ones who are giving gratitude to what they have.
Yes.
Because I think the poorest person is the person who isn't grateful for anything.
Yep. I feel that. A lot of the rich people I know, they're very thankful for what they have and they give gratitude for it. And you can tell. And because they give gratitude for it, they appreciate it. And when we don't understand words now, right? When you appreciate something, it means it goes up in value.
Yeah.
That's what appreciate means. So because they appreciate their wealth, they appreciate their journey, it keeps going up in value.
They maintenance. Yeah. They take care of it. Good steward. Yeah. Man.
Yeah, man.
That is crazy, man. Time just flew by like that. But once again, talking to our guest, AJ Vassar, you can go visit his website. It is right here in my face. It's internationalspeakersshowcase.com. Real quick, what's the best call to action for those who are listening right now if they want to learn more about you and your business?
Man, the best call, get on social media. Hit me up on social media. All my handles are at AJ Vassar, Instagram, Facebook, all of that. Or find somebody that can help you with programming. That's the first thing I start everybody with. You don't even gotta holler at me. I don't care if you holler at me or not. Go find somebody that can help you start changing your programming. Because if you change your programming, you change your life.
That's it. Once again, I want to say thanks to AJ for your time. Talking to Refocus Radio, man.